Hello everyone, and welcome to the Future Forces track. I'm so glad that you guys are all here. We just had some wonderful moments of deep breathing with wonderful scents to help us feel calm, more focused, whatever it was that we needed to tap into. And now what we're going to do is we're going to be moving into how we're tapping into data around our brains, personalizing that to actually improve our performance and our sense of well-being. And to do that, we have 4 rock stars who have a wealth of experience, very distinguished careers, track records, and one that actually comes dressed for the part. So please welcome to the stage to talk to us is Oura Hannu Kinnunen, Trevor Colm, and Victoria Williamson. And without any further ado, please give them a warm round of applause.
Hello, Austin. I'm so happy to be back here. So my name is Laura Avonius. I'm the founder and CEO of Odyssey and moderating this amazing panel for you and working here at the Capital Factory with Odyssey. So they say that the key to success in life is to surround yourself with smarter people than yourself. So here we are with 3 doctors and doing the job. So let's give them an applause. So I will let them introduce themselves to you via some questions. So Dr. Trevor Colm is the CEO and founder and inventor of Cortex, which is a EEG scanning robot for chiropractors. So tell us, Trevor, how did you become a chiropractor and how did you invent Cortex?
Yeah, so back in 2008, I suffered a major brain injury playing lacrosse in university in Canada. And I had to drop out of school. My short-term memory was completely gone. I had brain fog. I couldn't be around bright lights. I couldn't exercise. And I'm going to see this really premier concussion testing facility. And they did a bunch of baseline testing on me, and my brain was functioning about 20% of where the average person should be. And for months, I'm not getting better. I'm going every 2 weeks getting retested, and nothing's changing. And as you can imagine, after a while, it starts to, these questions start to sink in. Like, is this going to be the rest of my life? Like, am I going to be able to graduate? Am I going to be able to have a family, hold down a job? And one day, a friend of mine says, you should go see a chiropractor. And I was like, a chiropractor for my brain? Don't they pop your back when it hurts? And I had no other option, so I was like, okay, let's try this. And the chiropractor explained to me that when your brain and body communicate through your nervous system, right, which your brain, your spinal cord, and then the nerves that come off your spinal cord. And if there's any interference in that communication, then your body can't heal and it can't function properly. And I think my jaw hit the floor. I was like, how come no doctor has ever told me this? Like, why isn't this healthcare? Like, why isn't this healthcare? This is the root cause of a lot of health issues. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. And first adjustment, he kind of gave me a bear hug and lifted my skull up off my spine, and instantaneously, I was like, whoa, what just happened? My brain fog was gone. The next day, I was feeling substantially better. When I went back for my next 2-week concussion follow-up, my scores had jumped up to 90%. So very, very quick turnaround. And beyond the concussion getting better, I started making better choices for myself. I started becoming more self-reflective and changed a lot of my habits and behavior. And I realized that this is a really profound healing modality that really has fundamentally changed my life. And so I decided to become a chiropractor. And as I'm sure if any of you have heard anything about chiropractic, you probably think back pain, neck pain, headaches, things like that. And there's really very few tools in chiropractic to show people that we're changing the brain. And yet all of the research over the last 10 years is showing that chiropractic adjustments profoundly change the brain. They alter your soul. I can go into the neurology behind that, but it's very, very profound. And yet as a practicing chiropractor, I have no tool to demonstrate that. So no matter how many times I tell my patients, hey, we're going to change your brain, I'm showing them pictures of x-rays of their backbones or various other, objective measures of their back, and they can never cross that bridge to, hey, I'm a brain doctor, not a back doctor. And so I realized there's a real need for this technology. And so that's what set me down this path to just kind of fumbling my way through it as a, music major turned chiropractor turned tech founder. I had to fumble my way through this and figure it out, but we were able to come up with a really cool product that's actually starting to show the real impact of what chiropractic care is.
Yes, that's really amazing story, and thank you for sharing it. And one cool thing about these amazing panelists that they are not only like on the pioneering front of the neurotech, but they are all musicians as well. So we were joking that we will in the end maybe sing and play for you, but let's see. So, Dr. Victoria Williamson, you are the global authority of music, psychology and neuroscience, and also the author of the book You Are the Music that is studied in the universities. Now you are also a co-founder and inventor of Oura, a music-based nervous system regulation tool that is now also wearable integrated, which we are celebrating today. So, how was your journey from academic to become the inventor and chief scientist of a startup?
Thank you. So my life is a marriage of my two great passions. I adore music. I have for as long as I can remember. It was part of me and my expression. But when I went to school and took my first psychology class, I thought, this is it. I get to understand other humans. Give me the key, please, now. And so I kept playing music, teaching music to pay for my university studies, kept studying psychology. But when I found there was such a thing as the psychology of music, that was it for me. Because I got to understand the human mind and human behavior, which is psychology, as it relates to music. And music is fundamentally human. There is not now, nor has there ever been a human society found that has not made music. Why? Why? When the pressure was to survive, did we spend precious resources making music? And we've been making music for a very long time. The oldest evidence we have of instruments is 40,000 years old. Why are human beings doing this and continue to do this? It took me about 20 years of study to come around to the viewpoint that it's all to do with well-being. And in particular, in my case, to do with the regulation of the nervous system. Our nervous system and our loved ones' nervous system and our community's nervous system around us. So my passion when I moved from university into entrepreneurship with Laura, with a shared dream that music could be fundamentally a root of changing human well-being, was to move from this aesthetic model of music to a functional one. We can still have our amazing music, we can still go to festivals, but let's enjoy music the way it was meant to be enjoyed in that forum. We can take music down another pathway as well now into the functional use. From the intuitive application of music for our well-being, which is what we do every day, to the informed use, using science. And that's what we do at Oura. And Oura was always going to be a challenge for humans because it requires musicians to speak to neuroscientists, to speak to computer scientists, and so on and so forth. So we often get asked, why didn't anybody else do this first? And it's because it's a huge human challenge of communication. And that's what I've been blessed to be a part of as far as Oura is concerned, is that Laura has built a team that allows that communication to happen and gives us the possibility to bring musical well-being to everybody.
Thank you, Vicky. And then Dr. Hannu Kinnunen, so you have done your career with wearable measures since the 90s when you did your master's thesis about heart rate variability, and then you had a long career at Polar, and after that with Oura. So Hannu here has actually been the first employee of Oura, which is now 11 billion valuated unicorn, and he was the chief scientist there, so he has been contributing to the patents and to the product that is loved by millions. So at which point, Hannu, joining it very early stage, I know there are many founders here, and it's quite an uphill battle to build a unicorn, so at which point started you to realize that Oura is going to make it big, and how does it feel to have been inventing something that improves lives of millions of people?
Thank you. The thing is that Oura had those technologists who would like give you like PPG signal and some sort of temperature sensors, but they didn't have a person to really bridge to build the bridge between the dreams of the founders that they wanted to make a ring that helps people live healthier life. So they hired me to really like what you actually do with those signals. You get the pulse signal and movement and temperature. So for me personally, it was the thing that the investors here said that don't talk about how you do things, but my task was to determine how we do things. So like for me, it was important that I got the personal belief that we can make a ring that helps people live healthier life. So when I saw my wife's menstrual cycle with the temperature readings, wow, this is something. When I saw my nighttime heart rate variability matched with my recovery, and there were some other things like the actual signals started to tell a story about my well-being, my close one's well-being, and I with this female menstrual cycle thing, I said, why don't they teach this at school? Every about 28 days there's a new wave of warmth into this world, and because even women try to be small men. So this kind of ideas. Then later on, as you also think that it's not just that you can measure something. Then you need to get the product like a trimmable, and so it was only the second generation of the ring in 2017 that it started to look like a jewelry, because especially women don't wear ugly rings or ugly rings. so that was the dreamability part, but still the world did not know. So then Prince Harry happened. Prince Harry started wearing a mysterious ring, and the People's Magazine started to ask him, what's this mysterious ring? And we let that happen for days. They told us that nobody is going to comment anything. And it was successful, because really it was unintended, we didn't plan it. It was worth millions of marketing, the visibility that we got. So there were many of these kind of happenings in the Oura history, and I somehow believe that the pure intention was important carrying us further. So the impact, like when this new funding round was announced, they were interviewing Tom Hale, the current CEO in PNC, what's the TV, and they started talking about their readiness. And then I got a bit emotional. I decided that's readiness, because they were talking about readiness, but actually they were talking that I'm drinking less alcohol nowadays. I'm going to bed more regularly nowadays. I'm having my evening time for better things nowadays. So when people talk about Oura readiness, they are actually telling that they are starting living a healthier life.
Yeah, that's amazing, Hannu. Congratulations for that. And that quote that you said, Petteri Lahtela, who was the CEO at the time and one of the founders, he always says that as long as you keep your intention pure, meaning that you really want to help the user, you will be successful. So that's a tip for all of the founders here. So let's move on to the actual topic, that why should health measurements be paired with personalized intervention? Why is this like the new thing now in neurotech? So Hannu here created this amazing tool for measurement, but now we are actually pairing the measurement with those interventions in both of the companies present here on the stage. So Vicky, since music has been, like you said, always around as a healing method and tool, so what for you as a scientist does this new phase of connecting the music-based intervention, binaural beats, with wearable progress tracking and personalized intervention, what kind of avenues does it open to you as a scientist?
The major exciting avenue it opened to me as a scientist was understanding the loop. between what we do and then seeing the result. And as Hannu has alluded to, and he and I have spoken about this a lot over the past couple of days, that this is a key motivator for each of us. Now, there's only so much we can listen to health officials or our own personal physicians saying, you need to eat this, you need to not do that, you need to so on and so forth. Yes, sir, I understand that. But when you see the result of a little positive choice, a little positive tweak, you went to bed a little bit earlier, and you could see that change in something like the Oura ring, or now excitingly in Oura as well, it completes that loop for you, and you become the driver. And as a scientist, yes, this is fascinating to me that we can measure the results of listening to something like music, and you can see the positive impacts on well-being. But if I may just speak for a moment personally, I got to the age of over 40. I was a scientist, I'd studied the biology in the brain. I had no idea how my own nervous system worked, and I was fighting it. I have a child with profound learning difficulties. I'm a co-founder of a startup. Is life stressful? You betcha. But I was fighting it. I was trying to do too much, and it was the combination of the Oura ring and Oura that taught me about my own nervous system, that taught me about how I can make very small adjustments to my life and see big results. I can listen to Oura for just a small amount of time, and I can see the positive change that it makes. And you feel a little bit better, and then you think, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to have that glass of wine. I'm going to have a 0 beer. I want to keep this good ball rolling. And it's that investment in small change that we're all up here because we want to see people living healthier, happier lives. And you enable that through personal inspiration.
Thank you, Vicky. It's very powerful. We all experience things through ourselves. So, Hannu, what has the Oura sleep and HRV data and other data taught you? And why isn't this personalized intervention so easy that you just connect with wearables and let it roll? Why do you need to have neuroscientists and specialists like you to interpret the data and build like a proper solution? So 2 questions in one. Sorry.
Yes, it was really fascinating to see that you bring a lot of your daily life into your bed. I didn't imagine when my wife suffered having very little deep sleep actually. So then he baked in the evening, did something with her hands and no like social media or nothing. And all of a sudden she got like a really good amount of deep sleep. So it was like a strong experience. And then, well, honestly, having an argument or this kind of silent time with your close one is reflected in the first part of the night especially. So like somehow I understanding that finding that really my lifestyle really has an impact. And no one of us is actually immune, but we might be more sensitive to certain things than others. So this kind of 10 rules to improve sleep, they don't work for everybody, and they are not actually very popular. And competition does not work when it comes to behavioral change. Forget about if you plan to help people live healthier. You are stepping into a private sector when you start instructing others about their health. So that's what I also learned, that we're going to be careful and polite, like the Eastern culture type of approach, that people that will find their own way, and we just help them find their own way. Then another learning is that weekends and short holidays are the worst for your recovery. like your employers might think that it's good to keep some free time, but us humans, like in general, because Oura made a nice big data tool, like it really revealed a lot of things previously unknown. Like when the COVID hit, we saw like patterns, like that was initially healthier, like people started living more consistent life, but then they forgot and they didn't do their physical activity anymore. So we learned a lot about human behavior there as well. And then the other one is you really need to generate the trust between you as a technology company and the people that you are. So once you get that, it's like so much. But then about that, when building this kind of connection with wearable connection, I heard here I've met some people who also want to build a connection with their some kind of treatment, and then how it's reflected in people's well-being. The thing is that our well-being is a bit more complicated than just heart rate variability or heart rate. So that's why we need to pause and think how we combine and how we actually measure individual's well-being. So that's why and the raw metrics is noisy. You don't. There's more code in the successful application for filtering the bad data or non-wear, or you would like to measure the workout, but you also need to know what to do with somebody preparing and changing the clothes and going to shower, and your metrics will otherwise you will show wrong data to subjects. So just respect the difficulty, but just if you think with your human brain what the user needs are, and make a product that follows that rules and not just machine learning, because machine learning specialists have difficult time in understanding because they obey to data, but they don't have all the data necessary for this development. So pay attention that you really have the right kind of data that includes these transitions. You can't build an automatic activity recognition without actually having a lot of transitions that will help your algorithms to learn. So this kind of mixed answer, but I think it really is possible still.
Yes, you just need to know what you're doing and listen to the user and focus on the benefits. Thank you, Hannu. So Trevor, why does a chiropractor need EEG measuring robot and HRV measurement during the treatment, and how does it change the profession and what kind of conditions can be treated like this?
Yeah, so I think I'm a big fan of first principles thinking, and so I think you have to start with what are the right things to measure, right? And I think this applies to almost any treatment or intervention in alternative healthcare or regular healthcare, right? It's there's no real feedback loop. It's well, I have anxiety. Well, try this drug. Come back in 6 weeks and let's see if it worked. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, try this one. Right? There's no feedback loop that really objectively shows us and allows us to custom tailor treatment. And so I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. So my story about my concussion, the truth is I saw one chiropractor before the one who changed my life. And he was seemingly doing the same thing, but nothing happened. Nothing changed for months. And then I see this other one, and the first adjustment, my entire life transformed. So I had this burning question, what did you do differently? And how many of my own patients are in that same position? How many people am I putting my hands on and trying to help heal, and yet I'm missing the mark, or I don't know what they need. And so I think no matter what the treatment is, I think having a real-time feedback loop is a complete game changer. And in chiropractic, I consider myself a very simple chiropractor in that I only ever adjusted the spine. And how much force do I use, right? I use a little tool. We all experienced this before we got on stage here, but it's a little tapping tool. And you can change the amount of force you put in. And I would occasionally have a patient who had some severe trauma or PTSD, or a severe autoimmune condition, and their nervous system couldn't handle the full force. And often it would take me screwing them up a little bit. The first visit, they'd go into a spasm or something, and unfortunately, I had no way of knowing, like, what did they need? Like, how much force did they need? And where did they need that force? And so, I believe that like Cortex is designed to show us in real time, a real-time feedback loop that's integrated into the treatment. And you know, when I was still practicing, I would see all kinds of miracles happen. Like I saw just from tapping the spine, like 2 little taps each time they'd come in. I you know, repeatedly over time, but I would see diabetes reverse, fibromyalgia, lupus. I'd see people with weird like laboratory, like their blood labs would have weird biomarkers and they would just resolve. I saw thyroid issues resolve. Addiction was one thing. People come in like, I have low back pain, and then 2 months in, they're like, hey, you know, I just kind of stopped drinking. I used to drink like a 6-pack of beer every night, and now I don't. And you know, it could be super impactful, like not just for that person, but think of the ripple effect for, you know, their partner, their children, their family, their coworkers, right? When you bring somebody back to their optimal state where they can truly be healthy and thrive again, like there's a huge ripple to that. And I think the impact we can have, no matter what treatment or intervention or modality we do, if we have that real-time feedback loop to really fine-tune it, it can be a game changer. Like, a few months ago, I was at a big biohacking conference, and you know, walking through the trade show booths, there's just everyone's got some product that they're making a claim about. Like this blue cream will change your whatever. Like maybe it does. I don't know, but how do we know? Right? It's just these claims can go unchecked, right? And you know, there's lots of. I'm sure there's validity to a lot of these things, but some of them probably are kind of snake oil. And I would really love to have some kind of a seeker of truth that can distinguish like what really works, but then even more importantly, when is that appropriate, right? Like what chiropractic might be fantastic, but does everybody need the same type of chiropractic care every visit? Probably not. And so how do we fine tune that and custom tailor to that person? And I think eventually AI will help us with that, but initially it's like, how do we need a real-time feedback loop to start discovering patterns, and then how do we move people in the right direction as efficiently as possible?
Yeah, amazing. And that is the very same reason why we built the wearable connection in Odyssey version 2, which we are really nervous to launch today. But Hannu, back to that, some final words about vision of the future. So after your Oura career, you have been now an advisor in many neurotech companies, and also you've been part of building the sleep score and other metrics for Odyssey. So how do you see the future of neurotech? What happens next?
Like more than new data, we need to make everything more personalized and more context sensitive. Like I personally would like to go for understanding emotions, because our decisions are made by emotions and our human needs. Because here even they have talk of. Somebody has like mentioned something in this direction that instead of asking that what problems are you solving, is it ask what human needs you are addressing. Because let's think about this health space as an example. Like if you really like take the machine learning models and you want to solve like problems with health, you easily think that you go to the medical records. But actually think about yourselves. What does the medical record say about your health and well-being and your what you aspire in your life? So it's more than your knee injury like 15 years ago, and maybe your early asthma symptoms that we know. But there is no health data yet available to build real like emotional intelligence and machine learning for how to improve your well-being. So we need to think differently. We need to start collecting that data we need to start like collaborating with others to get that type of data that help us build new understanding of health and well-being, and not sickness, disease, and early stage mortality, or looking for the problems because and the medicine, how to sell more medicine for these problems. So we need to. So, but I really like to think about these human needs, like unity, integrity, meaning, peace, autonomy, play, well-being. That how do we serve these needs with our technological solutions? And that will really make the world a better place, and not just like capable of finding more problems or generating more problems. That greed and just looking for a short-time pleasure will lead us into. So I really believe that technology can help in this kind of a little bit like you might think a little bit like more feminine, but they are more human.
Yes, thank you, Hannu. And with these final words, I will now give the turn to the audience to ask questions.
I would like related to Odyssey use, for instance. If you get just more internal strength by using Odyssey, I believe that you will also make better lifestyle choices, and you will have better unity and connection with your close ones, and you will actually start sleeping better. And so I mean, let's take this extra energy we get to improve our lives and the connection.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Hannu, and thank you, Trevor, and thank you, Vicky. And now we need to go to the Q&A. So right there we have a question.
Thank you. Great presentations. For Dr. Williamson, I've been a musician here in Austin and a technologist here in Austin since the 70s. There's an organization in Austin that you may or may not be aware of called Swan Songs. And it is an organization set up to bring music to people in their final stages of life. And I know dozens of musicians, and people can sign up for what kind of music they would like to hear. And the transformative nature of seeing people at the end of life being transformed with music is unbelievable. The stories are just unbelievable, taking people that were just basically non-communicative, and taking them out. So I think, it's a great connection. I've seen it in a variety of other ways, and I think learning more about memory, connections, music, which was initially part of the memory of the brain that carries stories on through generations, is a really great connection. And the Recording Academy is here. So the question I have is, have you been connected with that kind of activity in terms of bringing people out of certain stages to be able to reconnect with life, if you will, for even a short period of time?
I have been blessed in exactly that way. So in my former academic life, I ran a laboratory in music and well-being, and I had wonderful students who worked to their passion projects. And there were many students who were keen to be involved in dementia care, in end-of-life care, and you're right. Music, sound is one of the first sensory experiences we have in utero. We know that babies remember sounds that they hear from 6 months on, and it is very often the last sense that we have in a coherent connection as we pass on. So from cradle to grave, this music has a very fundamental way of stimulating the brain, of providing connection when connection can so often be lost, whether that's to your own memories, and you're very right, sir, there is a very strong connection there between emotion and memory, but just the ability to enjoy a sensory experience. We're all in a very sensory overstimulated world, and music is one of the fundamental human experiences that can bring us peace at all stages of life.
Awesome. Got another question over here.
Thanks for the presentation, guys. Very interesting. I guess maybe a question more for Dr. Hannu, just in terms of your line. With these wearables, what are the key metrics that we should be looking at that it gives us each day? Obviously, it gives you like 100 different data points to look at. Which are the main, I guess, drivers in terms of your speciality, in terms of getting great sleep, but also maybe a couple just for your overall health? What are the key ones we should be looking at?
Like with sleep, consistency is the key. Like there should be like somehow I find more like nice ways to display what's consistent, because like single discrepancy, single like bad night is not that problematic. But already like 2 in a row can take you 1 week to recover. So I more than just looking at 1 day, I would just like that you don't take it to habit. So that this consistency with sleep. And then it's real surprise to me is like the heart rate variability. When I was at Polar, we were using daytime measurements, like 5 minutes of rest. And there were so many disturbances. You just drank like a cup of coffee and everything changed. So I didn't get a relationship with that. But now when Oura came and we started to have like nocturnal nighttime heart rate variability, I became a believer that it can really tell a lot about your auras. There's some low-grade information and all these kind of things, but it is not specific. So you need to make your own learnings that what is the factor that's impacting my recovery. So like resting heart rate works well some others, but then when we include new sensors, we then really need to think over that. What is the benefit that we can offer? So I think we may find those two like by including more measurements and more sensors.
Thank you for the inspiration. Very interesting stories that you shared. Personalization, super important, super interesting. And I'm wondering, what do you think about, first of all, data, right? How important is data for personalization, right, as a backbone? And then, what do you think about collaboration as a backbone for personalization? Actually, any of you maybe? Yeah.
Sure. So in terms of, I think collaboration is key, right? We have, my product has, we get certain data points. Oura Ring gets different ones, right? And I think to really start to understand the full picture, we need lots of data. But like Hannu mentioned, we need context with that data, right? Brainwave data in particular. If we're just looking at a bunch of brainwaves, a bunch of squiggles on a page, well, what does it mean? What was that person doing? What was their state? We need context to understand really what's going on. So we need a lot of data, but I think more importantly, we need better quality data with context to really start to understand the full picture. Like how do all these different data points, whether it be HRV or EEG, how do they change given these different circumstances? And then we can start to relate those to potentially disease states or optimal well-being states. And from there, how do we then, once we understand what's optimal and what's not, then how do we start to move people back toward optimal? And so I think to do that, we need a lot of data. AI is a hungry data machine, and the more we have, the more we can start to see the clear picture on where human health and well-being needs to head.
Yeah, and if I may just cut in as well, I totally agree with Trevor about the importance of context. What was a person doing? What state did they arrive to the situation in? But also who that person is individually. So we've done some really interesting research with Audison, where we're seeing different outcomes with the same sounds when a person presents as neurodivergent. So we're only at the beginning of being able to understand that, but it's a real wake-up call to anybody who's just slapping binaural beats on YouTube, which, by the way, only about 8% are real. There's been an independent engineering study done, and 92.5% of the binaural beat tracks that you will find on YouTube and Spotify, they're fake. Now, if I took you into a drugstore and said that 92% of the painkillers on that shelf either don't contain anything or contain the wrong thing, there would be outcry. But we're in an area with a lot of these technologies where it's not, there isn't such a gold standard. So we strive for gold standard, but for me, we strive for gold standard for each individual person, what they come with and who they are.
We have time for 2 more questions. We got one over here.
Hey, hi. Thank you all for this super inspiring. This question's to anyone in the panel. I am a founder that also works in the lab that does cancer research, and we've reached 25 million people already on how using ketogenic diet with sleep, movement, and stress management can really help the cancer patient manage it and decrease toxic side effects. But the problem is, as founders, we know that this is a gold standard, but the medical system or the doctors, they sometimes don't because they're not updated with the latest information. But patients, they resort to the doctor for the first meeting to understand what's going on. So how do you deal with this? How do you inform and spread awareness to the people? And I know I'm a little bit nervous because it's the first time speaking here, but
You're doing great.
I can start like something like there are. I'm just continuing what you say, that there are people with chronic conditions, and the medical community doesn't quite accept that the chronic conditions can become really much worse when their cat dies, or their new neighbor moving in that you don't know.
Yep.
So like, these are like the things that are real, like every grandmother knows. And then, well, we really need to believe in this thing and make the change, run the change, because that's real. And then first get self-assurance that we are doing the right thing. And then like the revival movement, the transformation starts like one person at a time. So it happened with Oura. Nobody was believe that you can measure anything like menstrual cycle from the palmar side of your finger. It didn't exist in scientific literature, zero.
I think there's definitely a fundamental disconnect in modern medicine with just like what it means to be healthy, right? Like the study of disease, like if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So there's this general approach, it's in my opinion, a faulty philosophical approach to what health is, right? Health is not just the absence of symptoms, which is what, often modern medicine approaches things as, right? Health is really a state of well-being. That's your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, your spiritual health, right? It's the full picture, and we don't arrive at a major health crisis like cancer just like by chance, right? There's a clear path that takes somebody there, and so being able to kind of unwind that, and I think having the data certainly is going to help move that needle, right, and change that conversation. But I do think there needs to be a conversation around, hey, like what we use, the metrics we use, or just our general approach to defining what it means to be healthy. Like when a newborn baby comes out, anyone ever here held a newborn baby? And don't they just like radiate this beautiful energy? Like that is our natural state, right? That's a state of coherence. That is our natural state, and it's the stressors of life that make us deviate from that ultimately, for one person it's diabetes, someone else it's cancer, someone else it's, you name the condition. And so our natural state is health. Our bodies want to be there. We just have to remove the things that are causing us to move away from that coherent, loving, vibrant state. And I think we need to move that conversation to where, like, how do we make that the goal rather than just suppressing symptoms?
Last question right here.
Hi. My question to the panel is, do you see a specific type of personality that gets into wearables and self-improvement? The reason for this question is I was a software engineer at a wearable tech, also worked in health tech, and early adopter of Bluetooth and Fitbit and everything, like to track things, but I know you all are very passionate in your areas, but is that the general trend or more specific type of users who want to improve their lives?
The challenge in this space, like to be honest, is that like first, it's those people who are already awakened that start using these devices. They want to be like tap that good boy. So they want to be like for the years. Then like it's a surprisingly big amount like Oura users are like treating some kind of like chronic condition. So like almost 1/4 of people are like somehow like confess that their vulnerability, and that's why they want to follow that how they can maintain this quality of life available. So then there are also there's like sometimes a worry about this neuroticism like that because like the wearable devices themselves don't cure if you are of a neurotic or orthosomnia or orthorexia, but we have our responsibility that we don't lead people into that direction too.
Yeah, I would say with Audicin, we see, I'd say 3 major groups come to Audicin. There are the people who are seeking recovery, who are realizing that for whatever reason, a chronic condition, their daily life, the situation they've got themselves into, they're in need of stabilization. I taught Hannu the word shattered the other day over breakfast. Just to have a nervous system that is shattered by the pressure that they're facing by the modern world. We then get people who are looking for tools to support their everyday life. So these are the people who tend to listen to Audicin while they're working, for example. I'm one of those, always listened to music when I was studying as a kid. And just to have something that is that little bit better than the standard music. Again, moving from the intuitive to the informed, something science-backed that actually gives you that little bit extra. And then you get the people who are looking for boost. And these are our biohackers. These are people who are coming with the sexiest nervous system you'll ever see. Stable, cool as a cucumber. Honestly, we have on our medical board a 5-time Olympic champion rower. Guy's built like you wouldn't believe. He came on to the medical board meeting eating like a salad and went off and won a world champion medal like 2 hours later. These people do not have, on the face of it, a problem. But there is always room with the nervous system for shift. There is always room for modification. And what I love about it as a scientist is there's always room to learn.
I will add one group. Those people who have a friend who has found something specific or have an improvement. In these kind of things, we often need somebody to like support us.
All right, with that, again, host prerogative, I get to ask a couple of questions here. Though there is a term for the group of people that you're talking about, quantified selfers. They are very, very, very focused on a lot of this. So when we actually first met, and you shared with me what you're doing with Audicin and the results that you're bringing, it wasn't a conversation about individuals. It was actually conversations around groups, workforces in particular. And we had this discussion around, do nurses need to have, and would they benefit, would the care benefit? So I want you guys to talk about, and we've talked about the individual results, but when I think right now about air traffic controllers, when I think about people who are working in public health, when you think about people who have very high complexity, public safety, marine industry, things like that, what are some of the groups that if you were to use this, not only would their individual performance, but the collective performance and then the collective benefit be there when we started using this type of approach and technology?
Thank you for that. Yeah, nurses definitely one of the key groups that where we started.
And I was just going to say that word shattered that you use, I think for anybody working and taking care of people in health, that is the word that they would reach for.
That's the word. Yeah. So one of our proudest achievements is that we did a study with nurses, and because Audicin works while you're working without any breaks or breathing exercises or extra things, nurses were able to use it on average for 2 weeks, 2.5 hours per day. So if you would ask a nurse to meditate 2.5 hours per day,
not
gonna happen. and this led into 22% heart rate variability increase without the lifestyle change that they didn't have the time and energy for, and almost 70% decrease of depression, anxiety, and stress. So those definitely, and here also we have been focusing on Department of Defense. So people who go to those missions, they need to be at their best, their lives are literally in danger, and also the veterans then recovering from those missions are very close to our heart.
So as you're thinking about all of this on the individual level, all of us lead teams, we're part of teams, we're part of different workforces. I think that's another really important use case and benefit is if you think about the workforces that you need to be working at their very best, as well as none of this progress gets made without human capital. That's our greatest resource. So how do we actually take care of the people who are taking care of the problems? So with that, I want to say thank you so much. And we went from Australia to Finland. We're going to be going to other parts of the world in our next couple of sessions. So let's give them thanks as we head out to lunch. Before you go I want to give you 2 pieces of advice or 2 pieces of direction before you head out. Lunch is going to be on, all in all these other places. It's on your own, but there's the cafe, there's the restaurant, there are a couple of places around here. When we come back here, please be here a few minutes before 1:30 because it's nice to start on time. We're going to be talking about robots. But before you leave, please turn to the people who are next to you. And if you haven't introduced yourself, say hello, make a new friend, and the best way to continue the conversation is over lunch. So we will see you back in a little while. Again, thank you for being here.